All right, this is recording 816-816. The name of this recording is Listen Next 816. It's a part of my podcast series, Speaking to the CIA. You can find me at ChristinaStation918.com or you can find me at SpeakingToTheCIA.com. So, okay. Anyway, let me continue. I've got 2 more recordings to make. So this is going over more connections. So also someone pointed out to me, back to her assaulting me with the pencil when I was 2 months old. Okay, they wanted to point out that the Doberman Pinscher, that the Pinschers obviously means I'm a Scorpio child, and so then that connects the Doberman and then them coining themselves as the Charles Manson occult, Gene Robertson or Charles Manson occult. They were Doberman before that. They might have had like a special name, but it was all around Doberman, and then it just goes back. You're up to my previous podcast. Okay, so the Pinschers, like the scorpion. Okay, and then also, I decoded back when I was in the same time frame in the 70s. She also used to call me, now Scorpio is a water sign, okay? So anyway, I decoded more. She called me all kinds of horrible names, but she called me a crustacean, okay, is what she called me. So crustacean is like a bottom feeder at the bottom of the, like a crab. Anyway, I used to crab walk, like, you know how little girls love gymnastics? We used to crab walk and do back bends and stuff on my front porch all the time in grade school. And I know she was icing me. In fact, I want to say something else that she did when I was in Slidell, but I'm not going to because people already know what she did. So she's definitely screwed. Anyway, but what they wanted to point out was that pin is in Pinscher, and inside pencil, P-I-N-C is in, of Pinscher is in pencil. Okay, and they also wanted to point out the stabbing when she ran another child abuse ring. It doesn't matter what she's doing in the child abuse ring. She's abusing kids with ice. She's using a hands-free mechanism. They call, like I told you in previous podcasts, they call it direct hands-on or hidden hands-on. Either way, it's still hands-on. It's just, you can see somebody doing it, hands-on, or hidden hands-on. Basically, they use the symbol of gloves, having gloves on. Using hidden hands-on, where you can't see the abuser abusing, okay? It's still an abuser abusing. It's just sometimes you can see the abuser doing it and sometimes you can't. So she has abused me hands-on, and she has used ice, hidden hands-on, okay? And she did it to me when I was little. So anyway, or they call it, and they also did, they call it direct and indirect. But it's still, you're still the perp, you're still the culprit. You used ice. Just because they couldn't see you using ice doesn't mean you're not the culprit. You're still the culprit. So anyway, what she's dependent on is the schematical breakdown of, like, which she would have a say in it. She is a perp. the schematical breakdown of, do you know what kind of new laws that would require? What part of this is you and what part of this is them? Was it all them? Was it part them, part you, or was it all them? Like the amount of, like, the laws that would have to go into place. And she thinks that kind of changing of laws to annihilate people, raping the ever-living hell out of little kids and adults, and committing murder, assassinations, such as like high school shootings, all this stuff. That's another child abuse ring that she's running. Icing a kid to shoot another kid, that's another child abuse ring that she's running. So it doesn't matter what she's doing in the child abuse ring, she's abusing children with ice. So anyway, she thinks the overload of having to change the laws around artificial intelligence is what will protect her. And if she poses herself in the future as she pre-planned to, as the person saving the children and the supreme all, she's just saving the children. She didn't abuse anybody. And the spokesperson for all the children that she herself has abused, if she puts herself in a position like that as she pre-planned to, then she gets away with the whole thing, running an entire racket, commit the crime, run to the other end, piece some out to your friends. Here's a tip, go call in FBI tip and get yourself a little money. And then act like you're an FBI agent, like you're some super psychic, sought after, freaking, will tell you what really happened. Which is the shit she's been trying to pull. No, they're the abusers. It's Gene Roberts and her Manson occult. So anyway, so she depends on all that lunacy. And then, like I said in previous podcasts, the discussions that were in my brain when I was talking to people really up high in Washington, they said they would have to change laws and they would have to apply different degrees. And then somebody said later, like a couple years ago, somebody said, you know what? They're going to have to assess what the situation is. And then it's like almost like they're going to have to give them a freaking ew. Like a earned income tax credit, but it like an ICE incoming like credit off of their sentence if they are found partially guilty is what they said. But anyway, however the government chooses to handle that or not handle it and deny it completely and keep letting them abuse kids with frickin' ice and act like they're saving the very children that they've been abusing for 60 years with their nasty little ring of Manson Satanists. Good. It makes me so mad. Like, let's just let people just get the hell away with this. Just turn everyone over to them. Like all your family, all your everything, just give it over to Gene Roberts, the Satanists and her Manson occult. And let them be the seasayers of your life. Pretending to be people they're not. Pissing off people that they're not. But anyway, I'm not going to sit here and go blah, 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 because, I mean, people already know that. People already process how in the heck to go about handling all this, but first the bust has to happen. So right now we're playing like we don't know that the cops, I'm not talking about actual law enforcement, she's controlling my speech. God, you can tell like them talking through my speech, the cops, the fuzz, man. You can tell they are some serious freaking scumbags who control my speech. But anyway, anyway, the the fake ass FBI and fake ass police that are running around acting like they're cops and police. If that doesn't work out for them, they'll pretend they're everyone else. Everybody's just pretending that, you know, they know that they're the perps, they know they're the assailants. But right now they're in their fantasy world thinking that they're the freaking, they're the cops and they'll get away with it. No, they're not cops, they're not police, they're not FBI, they're not anything. Jean isn't, neither are her people. Okay, so anyway, so in the stabbing and the child abuse ring she ran on me and my friends in 1984, 85. Okay, so they pointed out, and it connecting to MC Hammer. What, remember I told you how she used MC Hammer and NWA as a theme, and she used ice on somebody, and then she bashed a beer bottle into an African American's head in New Orleans at the NCAA College Championships in 1999. Okay, so this is in reference to that. So they're talking about his head and my wrist, okay, the bleeding from his head and the bleeding from my wrist. And they said head, wrist, and then they said that's also, she's saying head rest is what she's saying. Okay, so more on the fire that she committed here at this apartment complex up at the intersection of 81st and Sheridan. So somebody like cracked a joke at Jean, like, what the hell is this? Like, they're putting in my brain. You know how I told you she's got a whole tunneling system built underground underneath my neighborhood? And she's been running around back and forth under here with a bunch of freaking criminals. I think they've got themselves a little setup down there now. I think they're ripping off power and water. I think they've got like full like living quarters underneath my house now. It's underneath the street here. But anyways, they've been like running around like back and forth and doing all kinds of dirty crap for Jean. Anyway, somebody was pointing out her little tunneling system that she built underground here in my neighborhood. And then they pointed in my brain to the apartment complex. And it's like a fire hole is through the top of it. And so they're looking at it and they're like, what was she doing? Was she creating an exit for them? And then someone was studying it, and then they said that's exactly what she was doing. And then she was using Hovlane. She's referring to that fire that she did as Hovlane. But anyway, they started cracking jokes at Jean, calling her, saying, what is that, Hovlane? And I was laughing. Everybody was like, oh my God. And then I was like, and everybody else was like, wait a minute, she really freaking did that. Like she did that. Like she intentionally referred to that fire as Hovlane, so Lover's Lane. So she's making a reference to the military, the veterans place next door to it, and then it's next door to Sheridan's Pond. So you guys know Lover's Lane is a street in downtown Dallas. Okay, so anyway, so she really did that. She really used Hovlane. Okay, so anyway, then the more everybody was talking, and they're like, you know what she's doing? She's doing a Sandy Hook is what she's doing. She committed the Sandy Hook murders, and you can see Sandy Hook in that theming. And remember how I told you she, just like she did 9/11 victims, she approached, just like she did Jessica McClure, she literally approached the Sandy Hook victims and tried to convince them to give them she tried to get money out of them. Like she was running this big campaign. She's just going to save everybody. So she committed the shooting. She iced those kids. And then she wanted to go racket the victims, the victim families. Okay, and law enforcement, since I've had my podcast up, intelligence has known that's what Gina was doing. So they said that's what she's trying to pull right there, because that's a huge complex, which means every person in that complex, she's going to go start pandering to. And Christina and this and that and then and we just want to save you, and oh my God, she's going to try to work them over is what she's going to try to do. She's pulling another Sandy Hook is what she's doing, when Gene Roberts and her goddamn Manson occult needs to be kept the hell away from every victim of that complex. Anyway, also something else she did in her theming is she used over the top, okay? Because they said, look what else she did. The fire is so bad. She's using an over the top reference. And then the over the top, that goes to Hovling. Then she used Red Rover. I realized, Gene, that you ran your little Bico scripto in my brain last night. And your little nasty little sick friend that runs and does your evil deeds said that he committed the crime and he did it for you, Gene. So you can run around and go, I didn't do it. I'm not associated with those people that I tell to commit the crime. I just sit here on the other end and collect the reward. Gene committed the crime, and so did those nasty MFers. They're all in cahoots together. They all work different angles of the same terrorism racket. All those people are Gene Roberts people. Anyway, so she used also in that apartment complex fire Red Rover, okay, which goes to when I was little in elementary school, at East Globe, when I used to play Red Rover. Remember that game, Red Rover, send so-and-so right over? Because Jean's playing a game of the haves and have-nots. So she's using her Red Rover theme. And then she's probably also using Mars Rover is probably what she's using. She's probably acting, oh my God. Anyway, she's acting like the women that, you know how she's got women over there that she prostitutes women and children. Gene Roberts. She's acting like it's them throwing a fit. So she's making a Santa Fe reference there too, Gene Roberts says. So she used Red Rover, and then she's also using Range Rover, and she's referring to Missy Elliott. And so she's saying Missy Elliott, Range Rover, but she's referring to Missy Elliott's Jeep. She iced Missy Elliott, putting a Jeep in her music videos, controlling the videography. So she's saying Range Rover. So what she's doing with Missy Elliott's name is she's also using Janet Jackson, because Janet Jackson, oh my God. So Janet Jackson sang a song called Miss Me Much. Okay, so she's saying, Gene Jernigan Roberts is saying mulch. And then what she's doing with Missy Elliott's name is she's saying, do you miss me, Elliot, is what she's saying. So she's making a reference to my 6th grade year when I went to Hartford Elementary. And then that would go again. So Hartford, and then Red Rover. She's also using Clifford, the big red dog. Okay, so Miss Me, Elliot. And then she's saying, she's also referring to in here Steven Spielberg, okay? So he made a movie about the Holocaust. So she's autographing her fire that she started she's admitting that, I mean, she's not admitting, she's proclaiming that she's Charles Manson, and she's using Steven Spielberg's, I can't remember the name of the movie that he made about the Holocaust, because she's making a German reference. So what she's doing with Miss Me Elliott is she's dependent on people not knowing anything and only knowing what she tells them, and all she tells them is lies. Okay? And she's dependent on the fact that she recruits really young people who don't understand time span differences, because everybody my age that pays attention to my podcast and older, they pay attention to everything. But young people, they know their world, and trying to learn back in time before themselves is very difficult. So they depend on the fact of abusing young people who don't know what the hell they're talking about, and they're being lied to. It's just all fun and razzle dazzle, and let's just all stick up for the old 70-year-old hippie that did the World Trade Center attack in Oklahoma City bombing, and who gives a dang. And that's literally what's been going on. But since then, I mean, there is still that going on, but there's also not that going on, because people have been like, you need to not be involved with Gene Robertson or Manson occult. These people are deranged. They are terrorists. And they are lying, and they are terrorists, and they make money spreading lies, and they commit more terrorism. But anyway, so she's mixing 6th grade with 7th grade. Okay, my 7th grade year is when the artist named John Waite came out, and he sang a song called Ain't Missing You. Okay, now Gene Roberts' first love, as you guys know, she says it's kismet. Her first love's name is John, okay? And he was in Vietnam. He's a Vietnam veteran. I think she said he died in Vietnam. People, I don't really know if there was a John at this point. All Gene Roberts does is lie. But she told me, she said, they knew each other. He knew your dad. I knew it was meant to be that I was supposed to be with your father, because John knew your dad. Sounds like a snow job to me. Anyway, so she always uses John Waite, this little song, Ain't Missing You, because it's my first little like breakup song that used to make me cry when I was a real little kid. Which is just as stupid as hell to even freaking mention. But it's heart and break. You were a kid, obviously. She abused you. She abused all your little friends and sucked the shit out of all of you. But looking at the words themselves, she's making future threats of breaking apart the government, and she's making future threats of doing the World Trade Center attack. And she's combining everything into one and having herself a Porky sandwich. You guys remember the movie Porky's? On everyone I've ever freaking known. She has been having a freaking field day. Anyway, so she's also using that as a get out of jail free card, using John Waite, because she's probably trying to blame military again. And she's also using Roger Waters. Okay, and then she's also using Jolly Roger, which is what a Skull and Crossbones is called. It's called a Jolly Roger. Okay, so anyway, oh my God, I'm already 24 minutes in. This is going to be more recordings than... Okay, so let me end this recording and then I'll do another one.